Hey, about a year and a half ago, we did a video about hearing protection out at the shooting range. And I talked about we talked about a couple of different things. And today it's about time to revisit the hearing protection video. And, the first thing I want to talk about is we certainly want to reduce the amount of sound or noise that hits our eardrums, because otherwise you will lose your hearing. There's no such thing as tough eardrums or anything like that. And if all you're concerned about is absolute noise reduction rating, then I tell you, these big yellow things from Harbor Freight really, really reduce the noise. They're tremendous. But there's problems with this. One of the problems with this is that it blocks all sound. And if you're at a range where you have to listen to instructions, or someone else at the bay might be talking, maybe saying cease fire, or asking you, can I walk down range to check my target, you may not hear it with something like this. Also, because of the size of these things, when you try to get a good cheek weld on a rifle, you probably won't do that unless you kind of slide this up off your ear, and that kind of defeats the purpose.
And even if you're sliding it up, it is worth adding to that. You're still not going to get a very good cheek weld, or you're going to compromise your seal, and you're going to pretty much, there's no point in wearing the hearing protection at that point because you just have it popped off.
Yeah, that's right. But I suppose if you're at your own home, maybe you have a range set up in your backyard, you're going to shoot some pistol, those sort of things. Nothing wrong with something like this. Probably going to cost you less than $10. Well, the other one I wanted to talk about is a follow-up from my previous video, and it is the Walker earplugs. When I was in the military, I had blue earplugs. I still like those, and we'll talk about those here in just a little bit. But these Walker Silencer R600s are for rechargeable, kind of neat hearing protection. But as I use these more and more and more, I sort of revealed the shortcomings of these things. One of those things is, or one of the shortcomings, is the fact that if there's wind, and I mean even a fairly mild breeze, well, you're going to hear a lot of wind noise. I tried wearing these when I was out hunting, and it seemed like every step I took was causing enough breeze across my ears to pretty much hear nothing but wind noise.
Do those have any of those like foam or anything like that to dampen the wind noise, or is it just going straight in?
No, it goes straight in. I actually contacted Walker to see if they had, maybe there was a setting. Somehow I could change these things, make them less susceptible to the wind, and I never heard back from them. So that is a limitation with these things. But I do like ear plugs because you can certainly get a really nice cheek weld whenever you're using plugs. Now, you did your previous video talking about the Peltor Comtac IIIs, so it's time to hear a re-review or revisit of those.
For sure. Before that, though, I did want to add a few more things about those earplugs. Personally, for me, earplugs aren't as comfortable. Just something about how they fit, it just kind of feels weird for me. Another thing, comparing earplugs in general, so like we were saying about those, specifically those Walkers, they might have issues with wind. I don't know if that's the case with all other electronic hearing plugs, earplugs. For example, you have Opscore, I don't remember their name. There's some really fancy ones that can interface with your earmuffs, and those might work better. We don't have experience with all the earplugs out there, but it is just worth mentioning that is our experience with the Walkers. But yeah, another thing I wanted to mention just in general with earplugs compared to earmuffs is earmuffs are quite a bit easier to clean. You still do need to clean them, of course, but when you do clean them, they're quite a bit easier to do than earplugs, where you kind of really got to get into all the crevices, and they're just smaller in general, so it's a little more awkward to clean. You need to clean them more frequently, otherwise they get really gross really fast. Another plus that I will start talking about more, especially when I start talking about these contacts with earplugs, is you can wear them with literally any headwear and they don't really cause an issue at all. And also, they are a lot cooler, literally, than your muffs, because one thing I noticed, so I've also been hunting a lot with these contacts, and one thing I've noticed is even in pretty cold weather, when you're like climbing up a mountain, you get crazy hot, and every chance I could get when I was out there, I would be taking these off, like throwing these up above my hat just to cool down a little bit, which is not something you would have an issue with as much with actual earplugs, just because they're not covering everything up right there. So now to actually get to these Comtacs, to recap a bit, when I did the previous video with him about these, I was really comparing these to my Howard Light Impact Sports, which are some of the cheaper, you see them a lot in sports stores and all that, the hearing protection available. And I used them for a while, but I did want to mention, I'm not going to talk too much about them in this video because I already mentioned them a lot in the last video. So if you want to see that one, or if you want to hear more about those in specific, then I would recommend just watching the previous video we did before this. And that'll go a lot more into detail on it. It might be a little tough to get to because I was sitting around awkwardly for most of the video, but it does have some decent information if you're interested in those. To keep it simple and to the point, I was having a lot of trouble with the fit on those, and these fit a lot better, and they also are a much higher sound quality. So that covers it for the review from the previous video. Now to actually cover things that are new, that have changed since that time. So these Peltor Comtac IIIs, they're no longer readily available, and that's kind of relevant because these are not too expensive. We're going to be talking about some Sordin SWATCOMs later, and the price difference between these and those isn't that bad. But the point I want to make about these Peltor Comtac IIIs in specific is that these were about $300 if I remember right. And I bought these from EnviroSafety, and when I checked their site just before making this video, so they no longer offer these Comtac IIIs. These are an older model. The newest equivalent model, there's a few concurrently made models of the Comtacs currently, but the Comtac 5s are kind of like the newer identical model of this. And when I checked EnviroSafety, like I was saying, they're $485, so they're significantly more expensive now than the SWATCOMs. And actually, if I remember right, these were $348 exactly. So with a little bit of rounding, that pretty much comes to about $150 different. So you're looking at a significant price increase on those Comtac 5s. And I'm really wanting to compare these a lot to the SWATCOMs, which we'll be getting into right after this. But one thing I did want to mention that you do get that is better out of these Comtac 3s, and also all the later models as well, is that these do offer you comms capabilities. Now, I don't have mine set up for that, but they do have the plugs just readily available to put a mic in and put your radio in. However, again, going back to the Comtac 3s versus the Comtac 5s, Comtac 6s, and all that, is I've heard of people using a splitter to connect these to like a Baofeng radio or some of the other civilian radios available. However, I've heard on the newer Comtac 5, or maybe the Comtac 6, but either way, on their newer models, I've heard that it's a lot harder to get these to work properly with non-military radio because they changed some internal technology with that. So if you're looking at these for comms, you might want to really research your radio compatibility before you get these, because that is definitely one of the big pluses of the Comtacs over the SWATCOMs from Sordin, or actually any of the Sordin models, is these do offer you comms capabilities. But the comms capabilities isn't the only advantage of these. I do like how they sit on your head quite a bit better. So these sit pretty high. Now, when I do cheek weld, I do more of a heads-up sort of shooting position anyway. So I never really have much of an issue with my cheek weld, but these do sit high. So even if you kind of get more onto the rifle, you don't really have too much of an issue. And then one last difference between these Peltors and the SWATCOMs is there is a neckband versus a headband option, or a, and you can get those Sordins with the same sort of headband, but those do offer a neckband. I believe Peltor used to offer a similar sort of neckband. I don't think they offer it anymore. I have looked quite a bit and I haven't been able to find them myself. But with that, there's a bit more to talk about with that, but now would be a good time to talk more about the Sordins. So let's get to that.
Yeah, this is a Sordin SWATCOM Active 8. This works pretty darn well. Very similar design, kind of designed to allow a decent cheek weld. Right here, a little bit of a cutaway or kind of a thin part of this of this ear muff. These are about $325 when I purchased these not too long ago, and I purchased mine through SRS Tactical. AAA batteries, 2 AAA batteries. I'm using rechargeable AAA batteries on these, and one of the reasons why I did that is number one, rechargeable batteries are less prone to leaking, the acid leak, corrosion, and the reason why I want to do that is installing and removing the AAA batteries is really a pain. I mean, really a pain. Well, it's not absolutely terrible. It's kind of silly. I mean, you got to put them in just right, and you really got to use like maybe a pencil or a pen to kind of drop the first one in and make sure it's seated properly. Then the second one goes in, pretty easily. You lock her up. Then when you remove it, of course, that first one comes out, but you pretty much got to give it a little rap.
Isn't that how they actually officially recommend you?
That's actually, yeah, to give it a tap. They say right in the instruction manual to jar the one that's down here loose. Then, of course, that second one comes out. I mean, that's okay. I don't know how, hammering that. No, you don't hammer it, but kind of tapping it all the time, how that's going to affect the internal electronics inside here. So that's why I wanted to go with the AAA rechargeable batteries. I like a neckband. I can wear these like this. You can see that neckband right here. Feels good, very comfortable, right over the top of this hat. I can wear a baseball hat, or I can just as easily wear no hat at all. And everything's very, very comfortable for me.
And that brings up another thing I was going to talk about is with the headband, wearing this over hats. I haven't had too much of an issue, but I have had these for a while and I have experimented with a lot of hats. So for me, there are some hats that don't fit well. As you may have all seen, I do have quite a few hats and some interesting hats back here with helmets. But one thing I've noticed recently, especially because of how cold it is with winter hats, I do have some trouble putting my Peltors over this. I can get a seal, however, they kind of want to sit up on this rim right here, and I really have to adjust it right to get a good seal. If I'm not careful, they'll kind of just stick up right here, and they won't seal well. But if I work with it a little bit, then I get a perfect seal, or maybe not. So like I said, yeah, you do have to really work with it. It's still a little bit open here, but now I got it, and it's fully sealed. So that is something to keep in mind with this sort of headband. It may be different for you depending on what kind of winter hat you wear. If you wear a beanie especially, in my experience, they do not work well over that. That would probably be the same case with those just because of, it wouldn't seal well over it. But with the kind of hats that we're both wearing right now, you can make it work with either of them. Those are probably more comfortable though.
Yeah, one of the things that I do, number one, is I really like, and I made sure to order these with the gel cups. Boy, that's a whole lot more comfortable, and it seems to really conform to a person's head or their face a whole lot better.
Gel cups are a must. Even if you don't go with, one of these that we're talking about in this video, I would say no matter what you go with for hearing protection, you absolutely need gel cups. They're so much more comfortable, but also they provide such a better seal, where sometimes even if you have the best hearing protection in the world, it just will not seal right unless you get the good gel cup.
Yeah, and that's in contrast, obviously, to the foam type of cups. And I think in colder weather, you're going to find those foam cups become harder, simply because they start freezing.
Yeah, I've noticed with my old, I don't know if I brought this up in our previous video, but my old Howard Lights, the foam on those, I've had those for years. Eventually it got so hard that they weren't sealing pretty much at all.
Talking about seal, the other thing that I notice is that sometimes on some of the rifles, or if I'm shooting from a certain position, prone position, as that rifle comes up, it will want to lift this out, and kind of break that seal. And so what I started doing is I'll put that one military earplug right in this ear, my old blue earplugs, and I'm good. This one, will stay, my weak side ear, if you want to call it that, will stay nice and sealed no matter what. So I do like these. Wind is not too much of an issue. You're going to always have some. You're going to have some wind no matter what. It's going to pick it up. You get a strong wind and it gets really windy out here. you're still going to pick up some wind. And of course, you've got some volume control to try to attenuate that.
When I was messing with those a little bit myself, I did notice, compared to these, you can see these have a nice big foam over where the microphones are. And they're pretty much identical, I've noticed, in terms of how much wind you hear. It's not bad at all.
Yeah, the foam, it doesn't have the external foam, the large foam. But yeah, they're inside. You can see the foam is on the inside there, so it seems to do a pretty good job on that part.
Going back a bit, you did mention the batteries. I did just want to mention, we did mention this in the last video too, but the battery compartments on these are just super easy to take on and off. You just kind of pull these away. You got one on each side. These also take just two AAAs, one on each side. And yeah, they're just super easy to pop in and out. So I would say that's a plus to these Comtacs. And the newer designs have that as well, the same sort of design.
Now, the name might be misleading. I want to talk about that. It's called SWATCOM. And you will see that there is a plug right here. So, gee, that looks like it's ready for radios, walkie-talkies. You know, I haven't even tried that, but I don't think it's going to work. What this is for is, I guess, you know, you can plug in and listen to an MP3 player out there.
Noticed, I have tested with my Howard lights, not with these, but what I did try is I got a 2.5 millimeter to the 3.5 millimeter adapter jack, and I cabled it from a old Motorola to those, and I noticed whenever I tried to transmit, so you can hear other people fine if you kind of jury rig it that way, but what I have noticed is it thinks that you'll have a microphone plugged in, so it's gonna do some weird stuff. Like you'll hear like bizarre chirping because you're not supposed to hook them up that way. But also you won't be able to transmit because it's pretty much just one direction. But if you're using that to listen to stuff, it works totally fine.
Yeah, I did putz with that, and yeah, I can hear really, really clearly from these. Now, I will say this: you know, when you're out at the shooting range, that's not the time to be listening to your favorite tunes. So I would say kind of skip this, focus on what you're doing, on the safety of those firearms and all that. But yeah, what else you got?
So I wanted to mention a few more things about the neckband versus the headband. One place where it really shines, so like I said, I tend to be fine no matter what hat I wear, whether it's with a neckband or with a headband, but one place I think particularly where a neckband shines is if you're wearing a helmet, like I have back here. So if you're looking to wear a helmet, whether for just protection or to mount it on night vision and you're looking for some hearing protection that goes under it, well, SWATCOMs are a far better option, I would say, in that case. However,
now, is it the SWATCOM that's the better, or the neckband?
Oh, I should say it's the neckband that's better, yeah. You can get Peltors to work, and they can work really well. You can get these replacement posts that hook directly to an arc rail. I think they make them for those newer sort of M-lock rails as well that they put on the sides of helmets. But wearing an actual headband under a helmet is not comfortable, and it kind of locks in your hearing protection onto your head. And like I was saying, when you're actually wearing these out hunting, when you're at the range, it's pretty much fine. But when you're actually wearing these out and about, they get so hot, you want to pop them off every chance you can get. And having the headband kind of locks them in because you need to loop these straps around it, and it's just not comfortable. And like I said, you can put them on the posts. The problem with that is I don't want to just use them on this helmet. I want to be able to wear them with hats because I don't want to have to wear the helmet every time and kind of move them back and forth because it's just annoying to do. But yeah, with the neckband, the way it works, so I have gotten the headband to work. I do want to mention I had to take out a lot of the padding. You can see here, this is the part that actually goes over your head though on the neckband type. And with that, you'd probably still have to take out a little bit of padding, but probably not as much, and it would just fit way more comfortably because with the headband, it's just a really tight fit. I can make it work, but not very, very well at all. That's definitely the way to go in that regard. And then one other thing, like I said, I can make these Peltors work with any hat, more or less, aside from, like I said, beanies, and a few of the winter hats are a little bit awkward, but baseball hats and the like, they all work. Depending on the band, however, they will work, but some will be a lot less comfortable than others. I've taken to wearing a lot of these Bundeswehr type of cut hats lately because the way that they're stitched, they're actually super, super comfortable to wear with the cup. And that's kind of an issue with those two. It's just where the cup sits. So something to keep in mind with, I guess, earmuffs in general is the type of hat that you're wearing it under. It may not sound like that much, like just a little bit of comfort, but again, when you're wearing it for quite a while, you might get kind of a weird migraine where it's pushing. I noticed that a lot when I was hunting before I started switching to wearing these types of hats more. Is it just sits kind of weird, and they get really unpleasant to wear after a little while.
Well, you might think that headgear or hats is the most important thing to us. It's not. It's not the most important thing. But you know, I do like to wear a hat with a brim when I'm out shooting, when I'm out hunting. Certainly cuts the sun if I happen to be shooting toward the sun or anything like that. So that certainly is a consideration.
Yeah, it's very important because, for protection or just from protection from sun, a lot of cases where you need headwear.
Yeah. And of course, we also want to protect our ears. I really like these. I know that those 3M Peltor are also an excellent option. And so I wanted to spend a little bit of time revisiting hearing protection. And any last minute words?
I don't know if I've already mentioned this, but you were mentioning earlier about the cheek well on that and how you have to use the other earplug on the one that's on the rifle. That will also depend on your scope mount height and on your stock and all that. Because when I was testing with those, I haven't had an issue personally. I can just wear them also with anything, and I don't have any issue with breaking a seal.
Well, thanks for watching. Hey, if you've got any questions about hearing protection or any of the different hearing protection we talked about today, go ahead and pop it into the comment section. We'll try our best to make sure we answer that. Thanks a bunch for watching.